I always talk to people about vision and sight, and I think a lot of us have sight, but not all of us have vision. And so everybody in Tower Hamlets, even people in other boroughs can see the connect those towers. But for me, they just saw the towers. For me, I saw my future. So I had a vision for myself, and so my vision for myself was to be in one of those buildings. That's where I need to get to. And through hard work, it wasn't easy. By 22, I became the youngest financial advisor in Barclays in the country.
Amos Madra.
Emmanuel Asuquo, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here today. Wow, some questions I'd like to ask you. Let's start with the basic ones. Tell me, where did this whole journey begin for you, becoming a financial advisor, the guru that you are today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Amos. I really appreciate being on your platform. And where did it start? I guess for me, it started in Tower Hamlets, East London, growing up on a council estate. If you know that area, then although it's mainly quite a poor and deprived area, there's one place where there's a lot of money, and that's Canary Wharf. And I happen to live quite close to Canary Wharf, so I could literally look out my window and see all the big buildings there and all the big companies, all the big banks over there. And I just wanted to change my life. And I always talk to people about vision and sight. And I think a lot of us have sight, but not all of us have vision. And so everybody in Tower Hamlets, even people in other boroughs can see the connect those towers. But for me, they just saw the towers. For me, I saw my future. So I had a vision for myself, and so my vision for myself was to be in one of those buildings. That's where I need to get to. And through hard work, it wasn't easy. By 22, I became the youngest financial advisor in Barclays in the country. And I was 22. All my colleagues were late 40s, early 50s, and so they could all have been my mum or dad. And it could be, some people could find it intimidating, but for me, I knew this is where I wanted to be. And sometimes, again, when you ask for something, you have to be appreciative of what that comes with. Sometimes we can ask for money, we can ask for fame, we can ask for 100K followers, whatever it may be, you can have that. But you have to understand that with the good also comes the bad. And so when I asked for that, I didn't realize the type of responsibility, what it was going to be like, and how I'd have to change and, leave a lot of the time sacrificing friends and parties and things that people do at 22, I wasn't doing. Do you know what I mean? Holidays and all of these types of stuff, because I was studying, focusing, trying to be the best I could be in that environment. And so as I got better, I made more money, became better, but actually, as I got further up and became more senior, I realized that where are all the people that from my background? I always tell people I was born in Whitechapel in Canary Wharf, in Tower Hamlets. Canary Wharf is in Tower Hamlets. Yet when I was in Canary Wharf, I felt like I didn't belong. How could that be possible? How can most of the people that are in there don't live in that area, never grew up around there. How could they make me feel uncomfortable in my own area where I grew up, where I was born? And so I realized that financial advice, especially in the UK, was aimed at high net worth individuals, was aimed at people with money. And I was like, well, how does someone get 50,000 or 100,000 if you haven't taught them how to manage £10, £100, £1,000, and so on? And so because of that, I left the city and went on social media and started to teach people on social media. And guess what? Nobody cared, Amos. Like, when I tell you, nobody cared. I used to go on there, this is a pension, this is an investment, this is an ISA. Nobody cared. Why would they? They've got half-naked people on there. They've got cats doing silly things. There's so much entertainment and carefree stuff on social media. How was I going to get these people's attention? And I always tell people, it's not necessarily about what you say, it's about how you say it. And so for me, delivery is really important. And so I realized I need to catch these people's attention. So I just started to roast people on social media and, just cuss them basically and just tell them, look, you drive a nice car and you go to all these parties and spend all this money, but you're living in your mum's house and you share a bed with your little brother. And just bring the reality into it. And that used to make people laugh because they either could relate to it themselves or they know somebody like that and so forth. And that's what got my following. And I guess that's what's got me here today.
Incredible. it's just again, hearing that journey from the start to where you are today. And I think one consistent theme with that is you had a reason. There was a desperation to get out of the situation you were in.
Yes.
Had that vision and focused on the minutiae, because it's all about the small details. We can have that big vision and we can have that goal, but it's on that Tuesday afternoon where you just can't be bothered and it's raining 6 degrees out there, grey clouds, but you still need that consistency, that grind, And you had that. Talk to us about that journey, that process. 2 followers.
Exactly. Exactly. I think for me, I first of all, being Nigerian has a big impact, because as a Nigerian, we're very competitive. Like there's a saying like, Niger no finish last. Like, we don't believe in second. Like, if you didn't win, you lost. It doesn't matter. Like, do you know what I mean? We only celebrate win, and we don't like to be at the back or be average. We want to be forward, and so there's always that desire to achieve and be successful. Then obviously, like you said, the situation we were in, and looking at my mum working so hard and my dad, and saying, look, I want to try and help them and change their lives, you know what I mean? And having that motivation, I think knowing your why is vital. I think a lot of people don't know why they do what they do. Like, you wake up because the alarm clock made you. You go to work because you need to make money. You come back, you eat because you need to survive. Do you know what I mean? But you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. What are you working towards? What's your purpose? Because, like you said, like I always say, when you can't be motivated, you need to be disciplined. And so a lot of the time, that discipline comes from knowing why. Because once you know why, it's like, forget whether I feel like I want to do this or not. I need to do this because of X reason. And so it's so important that you know your why. And for me, knowing my why meant I knew I can't hang with certain people. Like, as much as whether I like them or not. And sometimes I always say, you got to see yourself like a business. And I'm lucky, from young, I saw myself as a business. And in business, if you got a supplier and that supplier is not giving your product on time, or then they're taking your money, or they're overcharging you, you find a new supplier. Do you know what I mean? And I started to realize I needed to apply those principles when it came to my friendship group, when it came to the people. Because even, if you work with a certain company, if they have a bad press, that can then fall on you as well. And it's the exact same thing with some of these friendships. Some of the people you're hanging with are causing you not to achieve what you're supposed to achieve in life. Some of the people you're hanging with, you're now associated as being with them. So certain opportunities that should come to you are not coming to you. They're bypassing you and going to others. And so I realized what I needed to do and the importance of changing it. And then mentorship. I think one of the big things that helped my attitude was having a mentor. Because you see, when you get someone that's already been in your shoes and they can tell you, this is what I did, these are the mistakes I made. Now you don't need to make those mistakes. What took them 10, 15, 20 years to realize or to perfect might only take you 5 or 6, because you're able to avoid the mistakes and move quicker. And so for me, another big thing I always tell people is, who's mentoring you in what you're trying to achieve? Have you found someone that's done what you like to believe are the first people to have an idea, or first people to think of something, but a lot of the time we're not. Somebody's already been there and done that. So go and find out. It might be in a different way, but they've already walked those steps. So find someone, and that again helps with your mental, because they're telling you, I'll avoid doing that, or yes, make sure you go and speak to this person. Even things like growing up in an African household and not looking elders in the eyes. And I had to have a white colleague that told me, listen, you ain't gonna get no promotion. You're gonna get hired if you don't look people in their eyes, because it's a different culture. And so sometimes, again, we hang with people that look like us because we feel comfortable in those spaces, and that's a limiting factor. You see me, I've come to realize in life there are just 2 types of people: good people and bad people. And as long as you're good, I'm happy to hang with you. Everything else is just a tag that we add on. And for me, once I realized that, once I've been in those spaces and I can say, look, actually, who's a good person? Let me surround myself with good people, not just good Black people, but good people from all different demographics, all different ages, all different life experiences, all different walks of life. Now that enriches me, because your network is your net worth. Absolutely. And these are the things that have helped me, with the mindset and achieving life.
Absolutely. Your environment is a looking glass, isn't it? Because it tells you everything about who you are. and certainly, you know, making sure you surround yourself with the right people. And I can imagine growing up in Tower Hamlets, you know, not all of it is very posh. If you look at Canary Wharf, there is parts of it which is
Yeah,
less so. So it's trying to keep away
yeah,
from the, you know, the popular crowd perhaps in school, and staying focused
yeah.
to that vision that you've got. I like what you mentioned about mentoring. And
Mm,
I think, you know, as well, you know, especially in working class communities, it's, you know, finding that mentor, you know, to because we don't see that image in front of us. It's not there every day.
mm.
You know, do I need to go to YouTube to find somebody? What's the process? How does it work? How do you, you know, how do you fill your mind with a wise advice that, you know, we could all apply?
Yeah, so I'd always use my own story because I don't like to do too much hypothetical, because sometimes people say a lot of hypothetical stuff that doesn't really work in reality. What really worked for me, number one, is when I was in Barclays, finding the most successful people. Numbers don't lie. The most successful people, the ones that were in my team that I had access to, I used to go and shadow them. I'll be like, can I come and spend a day with you? Just spend a day. Now, on that day, I'm not making any money because I'm watching, I'm learning. I might even be taking notes for them in their meeting that I might type up for them. And some people might be humble, like, well, you're a financial advisor, they're a financial advisor. But I am here to learn. I'm here to develop. And sometimes it's about understanding that, you know, we're not, you have to be humble. Sometimes you have to put yourself in positions of where you might feel weak, but you're not weak. It's actually strengthening you. You know what I mean? And so I used to go and sit in on their meetings, learn their style. I had one advisor, I walked into his room and although we were in Barclays, he had a different environment. He had a plug-in. This is one of the first times I've never seen it. He had a plug-in so that when the clients walked in, it was a different smell. So they didn't feel like they were in a bank no more. Because if you think you're in a bank, you think you're going to get sold to. But now you've walked into my room, you've got this smell that's relaxing. You've got different colors on the wall. You've got pictures. He's got pictures of his kids. And now all of a sudden they understand the environment they're in. And that's when I understood about actually it's beyond just what you are, people by people. Do you know what I mean? I learned that from a mentor and I saw it happen. And because I saw it happen, I could believe in it. One thing about humans, we are people that we like proof. We like to see, make sure. Once you know his work, we're ready to invest in it. And so having a mentor, someone that you can shadow, you can see what works for them and know that it works. So then it's just the best way for you to apply it for your style and yourself. And that really helped me. When it comes to finding them, if you can't find them in your workplace, for me, the next place is LinkedIn. And I always say people spend more time on Instagram than they do on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn will make you more money than Instagram will. Unless you're planning to be an influencer, I would say that if you've got a 9 to 5 and you've got a job, LinkedIn is the place that's going to change your life. For me, being on LinkedIn, I've met so many connections that when I've now got job interviews, it says you're applying for a job here, you've got these connections work in this place. And I've been able to get references. I've been able to speak to people that know the recruiter and be able to tell me what questions are likely to come up and all of this stuff. This is the advantage that, and what we call nepotism, that a lot of people from other communities have that we don't have. But I can create by networking, by building a strong network. And I always say, whatever time, if you spend an hour on Instagram, you should be spending 2 or 3 on LinkedIn. You should be putting double or 3 times the time that you put on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and building your network. Because like you said, for a lot of us, we are the first. So we don't see, but we can see because they exist. Like, there are Black people in prominent positions in this country and in other countries. And even if you can't find it in the UK, you can find it definitely in the US. And you can connect to these people. You can ask them questions. And sometimes they'll give you the answers for free because we're just happy to see you, because we know how hard it was for us when we were in your shoes. And so it's really important that you reach out and you speak to people in the position that you want. Now, that requires you to do the work to know where you're trying to go. That's the big thing. Some of us will follow someone or want to get a mentor for someone because it looks cool or because your friends are talking about them. But is that where you're trying to go? Before you get a mentor, it's important for you to know, where are you trying to go? Where are you trying to go? What job are you in now? What career are you in now? What career do you want to be in? And then get a mentor that helps you that. What are your issues? What are your problems now? Then get a mentor that can help you through that. Maybe a mentor that's been through that. And people are telling their stories all the time on social media. So it's easy to find. You just have to make sure you know where you're trying to get to, and then you can find a mentor to help you get.
Absolutely. Wise words indeed. Tell us about the Iman Effect UK. You know, you started your own business, you left the financial services. I mean, you're still working in it, but you're not
Yeah,
employed anymore. You're an employer now
no,
instead.
yeah, yeah. It's been a big journey. You know, I started in 2017, and to be honest, you know, I could have made more money being employed. I made more money being employed than I did for my business for the first 2 or 3 years. Um, and so there is that time where it's build up. And so for me, what I had to do was remain employed. I went part time, and then I could then go full time into my business. So I always tell people, don't feel like you just switch one off and start the other. It's best to build your business in the background, in the evenings, weekends, while still having that stability from work. Sometimes you are putting an unnecessary pressure on your business by asking your business to pay your bills. And so what's really important is actually if you can get a job to pay your bills, let the money that your business is generating, use that for marketing, use that so people can find you, use that on branding, use that on paying for people who have your ideal client to do connections with them and to do paid promotions with them and so forth. Use that money to actually build your brand rather than to pay you. And then as your brand builds, money will then start coming to you as you start to build. So that was a big lesson that I learned. But I think now, like you said, I'm in a position where I'm now doing a show with Barclays. I started my career in Barclays, and now I'm partnering with Barclays to do a show. I've worked with companies that I used to work for, and now I partner on content or I partner on projects, or they need to do a talk, and they ask me to come and give a talk and pay me to give a talk on their behalf because their staff are more likely, or their employees are more likely to listen to me than they are to them. And so what I always say is that where you start is not a definition of where you are in life. Don't feel like because you're not where you want to be that you're a failure. It's a process. It's a journey. I've gone from being an employee to being a collaborator with some of the biggest companies in the world, and that is something that I can be proud of. But it wasn't easy. It's about that consistency.
Absolutely. And you've gone into a completely different, world. It's, you do things in your own time. You've got complete control
Yeah,
of your time. And that's the most
exactly.
important thing, it's time. It's how we use the time. We get 24 hours a day, but it's how we are productive with those hours. Barclays, a partner rather than an employer, talk to us about when you realize that this is serious, this is really happening now, from trying to, grow your audience on social media to the point where TV channels are running after you, trying to get you on telly, partnering with businesses like Barclays.
Yeah, I think the time I really realized there was a time I went to Barclays now have some of their branches, they've changed them and they have like spaces where you can speak. So I went to one of my friends who I used to be a cashier with. She's a branch manager in Mayfair. So I went to the Mayfair branch to look at the space because they want me to come and do an event there. This was in the lockdown. So this is just before the lockdown. So obviously lockdown happened. We didn't end up doing it, but went there. And then on the way home, I went to the station. A young man stopped me and said, "Oh, you're Emmanuel. I watch your videos." And I was like, "Oh yeah, God, that's great." He said, "I've been watching your videos for the last 18 months, and I just bought a place last month, and that is because you just watching your videos. No, we've never spoken, but you have spoken to me through your videos, through your content, changed my mindset, and now I'm an owner of a property." And I was like, "Wow." And that's when I was like, okay, there's a difference. Then I got on the train to Canary Wharf, where my office was at the time. And when I got off the train, I met another young man who said, "Bro, you're doing amazing. Like, I make all my young people watch you. My little brother loves you. And it's so needed. It's so nice to see a black man in this space." Because normally when I see, he was treating me like I was a superstar. It's like normally I only see successful black men as footballers or musicians. But to be able to see you as an expert and see you on the TV and see you doing it and seeing the young people really, relate to you is amazing. So keep doing what you're doing. And that's when I realized that something that I started off doing in my bedroom, just me to camera, doing little videos, has actually spread and had an impact. And that's a legacy that when I'm gone, people always remember, that no one can take that away from me. And that's why I say money is great, but it's about, for me now, when I step out, I meet black people all the time, especially black people. But now I'm even crossing over to where I've got a lot of followers. I'm quite big in Scotland, and I'm quite well known in Birmingham as well, and outside of just London,
all over
and
the
outside
UK.
of just the black, yeah, outside of just
you're
just
on
the black community.
Telly all the time.
Yeah, for example, the other day, my dad's boss at work said, "Yeah, I saw your son on the television." And then one of his other colleagues is like, "I just followed your son. He's great. I love his content." And it's like, even my parents are now, like my aunts and uncles are calling from all over the world saying, "I just saw Emmanuel on this or that, on this and that." And it's like, they feel immense pride. And to be able to, especially again, being a Nigerian and coming from that background, one of the biggest things of fulfillment is making your parents proud. Like that's priceless. And to be able to say that, I'm not even halfway through my journey. I've got so much more to achieve, and I've really got to the point where I've made my parents beyond proud or done anything they could ever imagine. It's amazing.
And that's what it's all about. It's about fulfilling those dreams and, the legacy that, you spoke about. And it shows that, it can happen if you're willing to work hard.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of people who are struggling right now, and they're looking at their bank accounts and thinking, I wish something could happen here. Get a few more extra zeros on that account. What can we all do, given where things are at the moment?
Yeah, I always tell people there's only two things you can do, and when we think about this, we have to think practically. One is reduce our outgoings, and the other is increase our income. Those are the two things that you can do. And so when it comes to reducing our outgoings, it's really important for people to look at where is their money going. Like, don't just cut. Don't just there's this thing about cancelling your Netflix. Like Netflix is like what, less than 20 quid. That might not be actually what's making a difference. Actually, you might need to look at where you're shopping, because maybe food is one of the big portions of where your money's going. And actually, instead of just going to one supermarket, you need to start spreading it across others. So you need to actually know where your money's going before you can make the changes. So that's first, and really look at your needs versus your wants and understand, how can I make sure that at a time like this, I'm really focusing on my needs and not spending too much on my wants? So that's one area. But the other area is really about then increasing your income. I always tell people there are 365 days in a year. Why do we only get paid on 12 of them? Like as a person who's self-employed, there's no payday. Every day is a day I can get paid. Do you know what I mean? You do your invoice and you wait. The payment can come at any day. I meet clients all the time on a regular basis. There's not one day to get paid. And so for me, I tell people, like, you've got to look at how can you add value to others. What is the value that you can add to yourself that then you can then add to others? It's a simple method, and it works. If you can add a skill to yourself, then you can add value to others. And don't remember now in this society, Zoom, if you only got 2 people on it, it's free. So your client doesn't have to be in London or in your neighborhood. You can add value. I had a client who was teaching, she's from South Africa, and she was teaching South African kids English the way we speak it, as opposed to the way they learn it. Because obviously, if you learn in South Africa, you might learn certain words with an accent and sense maybe not pronounce. And obviously, a lot of them, their plan is to come and work in companies in America, in Europe. And so they want to make sure that their English is well. She can now do that, and she does it one-to-one sessions with them, and the parents pay, and her costs are zero, apart from the electricity and internet. Do you know what I mean? And so, which she was paying anyway, whether she was doing this business or not. So again, the point being is that you have to be wise. What value can you offer? What skill set do you have, and how do you add it to people? And then how can you do it in different ways? So I'm a financial advisor, so I can give people financial advice. I can do that one-to-one. I can do that as a group. I can also give talks. I can do that to individuals. I can do that to corporates. I also do TV. I also do radio. And so all of a sudden, this one skill now can make me money in several different ways. And then also what I could do, if I wanted to, is I could record the most asked questions. I could record a video with the 25 or 50 number one questions that I get. and split it into 4 or 5 videos, and I can sell that as a course. That's not new information. This is information that I give out all the time. But now, for somebody, that's adding value to them. And so the point being is that once you learn a skill and you can add value to others, you can set up a course and you can get paid while you're sleeping. Someone can be buying that course all across the world. And so the point being is about adding value to yourself first. That's the point people miss. People focus on, I want to make money. And their focus is, how can I make money? No, your focus should be, how do you add value to yourself so you can add value to others?
Incredible advice. I mean, that's it right there, isn't it? Add value to yourself, and then you can add value to others. You know, again, I think about that analogy when you're on the plane, put the mask on your face first, and then you can help the child next to you. You know, you've got to put yourself first. You've got to make sure you add that value to yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. There's so much to it. You know, your teaching and how you teach, you know, is far different to, you know, what we usually see on TV. And I think, you know, you go into a spiritual element, you know. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so basically I grew up in a church. So I grew up in a church, and I have influences. One of my big influences is a pastor called Pastor David Sasanya, and another one, my pastor at church, Pastor Saki. And they both, when they used to preach, it wasn't just about preaching. There was always an entertainment value to it. And so when I started, I was like, I'm not just going to give you the facts and figures about finance. I'm going to add the entertainment value so that you keep coming back, so that it doesn't feel like it's not boring. Because again, what they realize is that when I'm preaching, I'm competing with, you have your phone in your pocket. If you find what I'm saying boring, you can put on YouTube, put your headphones in, and you'll just zone out. I'm competing with all the pressures that you're thinking about when I leave this place, all the things that I've got to go and do. How do I draw you in? Especially and this is one thing that people forget, is that people's learning is different. So if most people are using Google and YouTube and social media to learn, then why am I now trying to open a book and try and teach you in that way? I need to teach you in the way that you're learning. And so what I understood was that if everybody else is using social media and using entertainment, then I have to find a way to add value through entertainment, but also make sure that it's adding value. That's the most important part. Because some people just add entertainment, and entertainment can come and go. And that's why someone can be hot today and gone tomorrow. But when you add value, people always come back. So I focused on the value so that people would laugh. But then after they finish laughing, they realize, no, but you know what? He's making a good point. You know what? Actually, that thing he said, let me Google it. And then they'll go and now all of a sudden they're getting value from it, because they're taking the laughter and the things that I can do in a 30 or 60-second video and saying, oh, that's great. And I can relate to that in the example that you use. So for example, I always talk about group economics and how we should do stuff as a group. And people be like, oh, but we never do stuff as a group. Then I'll be like, oh, but you go to the club and you all put money together to buy alcohol. And everyone's like, oh yeah, no, actually, we do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, actually, when you think about it, we do these things. We just don't do them in a way that actually makes value to us. And so by giving you an example that you can relate to, now you're like, okay, if we can all buy alcohol together, we can also save and buy a property together. And now we're making a difference. And so that's how I build my style. That's how I deliver it. And I always want to leave it so you're remembered. So when I'm gone, people remember, no matter how many other people spoke that day, they're like, no, I remember that Emmanuel guy. And that's my style.
Absolutely practical. You know, it just makes so much sense. Now, we know that there'll be a lot of people watching and listening to this. They'll want to connect with you on social media.
Yeah.
Plans for the future. How can the audience connect with you?
Yeah, so plan for the future. I mean, you know, social media is the big one. So it's at the E-Man Effect on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. It's the E-Man Effect on YouTube. Look out for the YouTube. We're going to be doing more YouTube content, more longer form content on YouTube. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube. But yeah, we've got the podcast with my wife also. So that's on Spotify and on Apple Music and other platforms as well. So definitely keep on with that. And I've got another podcast coming soon. And we've got loads of things in the pipeline. I always tell people, and I'll leave it on this, but for me, I used to struggle with English and writing. And I've been very good at speaking, but not very good at writing. And I always avoided, writing a book or writing stuff like that, because I never thought it was a strength of mine. And I've recently just got a book deal where they're actually paying me thousands of pounds to write a book. And I always want to, the reason I share that is because I want people to know, don't ever put yourself in a box. That's the lesson I had to learn. I put myself in a box. I said, oh, I'm not good at writing, so I can't do that. In today's society, you don't need to be, whatever your weakness are, you can pay someone. I want you to understand that you can pay someone to do what you're weak at. So I've got someone who I voice note, I send them voice recordings and they type it for me. And that's how I'm writing my book right now. And so the point being is that in today's society, you can find someone to cover your weaknesses. So don't ever say you don't belong in a space, or you can't do that, or you can't do this because of your weaknesses. You can, number one, get better and get stronger by practice. And number two, you can hire people. What's it called? Not Steve Jobs, Microsoft. Bill Gates says, I always hire people that are smarter than me. This is a billionaire. And he says, I hire people that are smarter than me. Because at the end of the day, I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. Either way, my name is on the door. It doesn't make a difference. It's my company. So we always remember that you can hire people that can do what you can't do. So right now, your limit is the only limit you have is the one in your mind.
Absolutely. It reminds me of what T.D. Jakes once said. He makes sure he's not the smartest person in the room. The people he surrounds himself with are much smarter than him, that they can do the things that he can't do. Wow. Your words are so impactful. Everything that you said today just means so much. When, you think about, we want to chase certain dreams and want to chase, money or whatever it is. But the fact is, we need to focus on ourselves, chase developing ourselves first. And as we do that, and then the other things can fall into place.
Exactly.
It's just so simple, but yet so practical. And that's the beauty of your wisdom, and that's why you've made such a huge impact in so many people's lives, and you'll continue to do that for a very long time. And of course, that legacy is already cemented. So I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you, Amos. Thank you for doing this. I know the dedication that comes to creating these types of platforms, to get guests, to do things regularly. It can be hard, and it can feel like who's listening or who's appreciating what you're doing. But it's vital. It's vital that we do this, and it's vital that this message is spread. So thank you for taking the time. Because all I get to do is come on here and speak. You're the one that's going to do all the editing, the promoting, the pushing. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for creating this platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.